Hey friends, welcome to In My Opinion with Denton Day. I am Denton Day. We are talking all about the Redskins this week. I had actually just recorded an episode, so this is my second take at this one, and I got the news that Scot McCloughan, the general manager for the Washington Redskins, has been fired. This is being recorded 7:30 on a Thursday, so McCloughan was just fired. This had been McCloughan's second season with the Washington Redskins, and McCloughan is largely responsible for the creation of that 2013 Seattle Seahawks defense, and that's one of the reasons the Redskins elected to bring him into their organization to see if he could have the same results here. And for whatever reason, it just never happened. And now, that's the simple way of putting it. We kind of know the reason it didn't happen. As this situation has progressed, we've learned more and more about the relationship between Scot McCloughan and Bruce Allen. Spoiler alert, it was awful. And how, once again, the top part of this organization has screwed it up. Dan Snyder bought the team in 1999. The Redskins have had nowhere near the success that they planned on having when Dan Snyder bought this franchise. They made it to playoffs five times, Once in 99, once in 2005, or 2006, lost to Seattle when Seattle made it to the Super Bowl, ultimately the fall to Pittsburgh. In 2007, Joe Gibbs' final year after the death of Sean Taylor, they won the division with Robert Griffin, and then they won the division last season with Kirk Cousins. Missed the playoffs this past year, and the frustration levels between McCloughan and Bruce Allen have just been ramping up. And one of the reasons came from something just like this. ESPN 980, Chris Cooley, who works for the station, is a former Redskin. He made a comment on his show that he thinks Scot McCloughan could be drinking again. McCloughan had had issues with alcohol abuse in the past. It's one of the reasons he didn't stay longer in Seattle. And for Cooley to bring that up, it was a low blow, to say the least. It was an ill-advised comment that probably shouldn't have been made. But the issue is not solely with the comment. The issue is that nobody in this Redskins organization backed Scot McCloughan up, and Cooley has not been reprimanded. Now, ESPN 980 is the Redskins' go-to station in the D.C. metropolitan area, and it's the Redskins' go-to station in that area because the Redskins own the station. So they very easily could have had some sort of reprimand for Cooley. I'm not saying you should fire the guy for a comment like that, but at least suspend him or do something to show that you have the back of your general manager. I'm not for censorship normally, but certain things need to be done, and they didn't do it. In fact, the organization kind of just acted like the comment never happened. And so I'm sure McCloughan didn't like that. And I can't really blame him. I wouldn't have liked that either if your employer isn't going to back you when somebody makes an ill-advised comment about your well-being, especially something as serious as alcohol abuse that you've struggled with in the past. And rumors really started to come to a head last week when McCloughan was not present at the draft combine. Now, drafting is his big thing. He is known for seeing great potential in players that no one else sees. He's one of the guys who drafted Richard Sherman in the 5th round, one of the great cornerbacks in the NFL today. Nobody saw that. McCloughan did. That's one of the things he had going for him. When he's not at the combine, it makes you scratch your head a little bit. Now, I understand the combine is very hit or miss because realistically, you're not seeing football skills. You're just seeing a 40 time, a broad jump, some cone drills, a vertical jump, but that really doesn't translate as much onto the field as something like watching film does. But it's still an important thing to attend. And when McCloughan wasn't there, rumors started to ramp up. And I had actually recorded an episode about that last week. I ended up not posting it and not making it live in favor of what I thought the Redskins should do in free agency, because a part of me thought that the situation was just going to go away. I thought there was really no backing to it. McCloughan was going to be fine because his talent as a scouter would outweigh any of the political nonsense going on in this franchise. silly me to think that the Redskins would do something intelligent. I've been a fan essentially all of my life, and they have let me down essentially all of my life, and that trend unfortunately continues. McCloughan was one of the best general managers the Redskins have had because he didn't fit the mold that their normal general managers under Dan Snyder has had. Snyder has hired glad-handed douchebag yes-men, guys like Vinny Serrato, to run the team for him. And Vinny Serrato couldn't say no to him. Vinny Serrato didn't know what he was doing. He ran the Redskins into the ground. He's one of the reasons they hired Jim Zorn as head coach, which is a terrible decision. McCloughan had actual experience. He knew what he was doing, and he had the results to prove it. At this point, the franchise is so up in arms, they've already been looking for his replacement before they fired him. So at this point, if Vinny Serrato walks in, let's say next Tuesday, and finds himself with a job, it wouldn't even surprise me. I'd be off the wall pissed off, but it wouldn't surprise me because that's a decision that the Redskins seem to make. Non-thought out guys that will simply say yes to Dan Snyder and do what he wants, despite the fact that that has never worked. It has barely worked in the past with a guy like Jerry Jones. He just got lucky and happened to have Emmitt Smith, Troy Aikman, and Michael Irvin on the same team. While the Redskins are over here trading 3 first-round draft picks for Robert Griffin III, who isn't even on the team anymore. He played 1 good year and won 5 games over the next 3 years. Those are the guys that have been in charge of this Redskins franchise. McCloughan was different, and we let him go because Bruce Allen didn't like him. Bruce Allen promised him control of the roster but didn't give it to him. Pulled the rug out from under his feet in favor of decisions that he thought were better. Bruce Allen clearly did not inherit the football mind that his father George Allen had. He's much more of a businessman, to say the least, who thinks he has a football mind. He's so stuck in his father's shadow that he wants to try and prove it, and it doesn't work. All this petty nonsense, the head-butting between Allen and McCloughan, and now McCloughan gets the axe, the guy that actually knew what he was talking about. This is such a Redskins decision that I can't even be mad at it because I should have seen it coming. We had about 15 to 20 months of just calm. We had just finished the Robert Griffin III era. We were not taking headlines left and right about stupid nonsense. And then here we had to go. I thought we were done, and we weren't. I've talked to my dad about situations like this, and I frequently ask him, were the Redskins always this dysfunctional? And thankfully he tells me no. So there is some sort of hope. But at this point, it's a sliver. Because it doesn't look like Dan Snyder is going anywhere anytime soon. And he just can't help himself. He has to have his hands meddled in everything. And it's absolutely ridiculous. The Redskins made a terrible decision today. Scot McCloughan was going to take this franchise to the next level. He was in favor of giving Kirk Cousins a long-term deal last year. Instead, he's sitting here, exclusive franchise tag, asking to be traded, and Dan Snyder sitting in his office telling him no. This franchise has overnight become the New York Knicks of the NFL. They have talent, but the owners and top executives in this franchise are running that talent into the ground. And in turn are kicking the Redskins fans in the nuts. Like they do essentially every year. I thought we were done with it. I really did. I hate being wrong, especially about situations like this. It's so aggravating. So now we can only wait and see who is going to replace Scot McCloughan. As I said, they've been looking at possible candidates for essentially the past week. And I pray that it's not Vinny Serrato. Because I'm not going to be here next week. We got spring break coming up. So I'm not going to have a microphone. But if Vinny Serrato gets his hands back on some sort of power in this organization, you will hear from me. I wasn't planning on doing a podcast next week, but if Vinny Serrato gets his hands on this organization, on some sort of power in this organization, you will hear from me next week, and it will not be pretty because I will be one very pissed off individual. If you have any thoughts or opinions about this Redskins situation, please feel free to let me know. If you have any positive opinions, please let me know because I am searching, grabbing at straws here, and I can't find any. Hit me up on Twitter at Denton_day. You can leave a comment down here on YouTube, and I'll be back in 2 weeks with more opinions.